Okay. Last week I have asked you guys to participate in the mind map activity, right? Mind map activity. Yeah, have you guys joined or answered? Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
already.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, let's have a look at those answers. Okay. No, the first module is on what is scientific communication. What is the meaning? What is the purpose? Huh? As I told you just now, this course is concerned with two things, the science and the communication. Huh? It's not just about the science, but also we are talking also about the communication. How to communicate the science, how to communicate our research, our findings. Huh? Is when we talk about science, we always talk about the discovery, the results, yeah? Right? So why communication is important in science? Yeah? Let me just read what I wrote here. Can science exist without communication? Communication, if you see, communication is just a generic concept. Without science, communication can exist. It exists in everyday life, right? But can science exist without communication? Of course, no, right? So because if you are doing science, but if you don't communicate it, what happened? What do you think if, let's say, you just do the research, you get good results, but you don't communicate it? What I mean by communicate is you don't tell people about the results, you don't write any article, you don't write any report, you don't present it to the public. So what happened? What happened, guys? Can I have some answers from you? Why is it important to have communication in science?
Same research will happen many times.
Say again?
The same research will be done many times.
The research done, can you say again?
The same research will be done many times.
Oh, okay. The same research will be done many times. Yes, correct. So it means that if let's say you don't tell people that you have done this, other people might not know that you have done that, right? They will do the same, and I mean, well, it will be it will be good because it will benefit the people around them, but perhaps there is no compilation. There is no sort of records. Okay, right. I saw some answers from the chat box just now. Nobody know about science. Yeah, correct. Means that if you don't tell people, like for example now, the COVID vaccine, right? So if the scientist that invented the COVID vaccine, if he or she doesn't share the findings, what happened? People will not benefit from it, right? People will not get the medicine, the drugs. So nobody knows about the science, yes. The information wouldn't be delivered properly, yes. So if you don't tell people, I mean, how people in, let's say you are doing research in Malaysia, so how people in United States will know, how people in India will know, right? So you need to communicate. You need to tell them, right? To inform about our discovery, yes, yeah. So, for example, about the vaccine just now, if nobody tell about their research on the vaccine, so nobody knows, and yeah, it will be wasted. Yeah, the information will be wasted. So it means that if you do research, you invest on something. I mean, doing scientific research is not cheap. It is expensive. There is an investment, not to say expensive, but there is an investment. But what is more important is that whether or not you generate benefit from it. So if let's say you invest but you don't benefit it, so it will be wasted. All the efforts, all the money will be wasted, right? We cannot spread the awareness about science. Well, okay, yes. If let's say we don't communicate, let's say like people for example, if let's say people do research about pathogens, pathogens, hazardous microbes, for example, like that can cause diseases. Okay, let's say people isolate certain microbes and found out that they are hazardous to humans. For example, microbes in the wastewater. So if we don't tell people about that hazards, okay, people will not know, and they will easily be attacked by the microbes, right? So we need to, I mean, once we learn about it, we have to spread the awareness. So we need to communicate, right? So that sort of things needs communication. So awareness, yeah, that's very good point. People will not trust our research because it does not have documentation. Yes. So later we cover that the research should be conducted systematically, right? So we cannot just like do the things blindly. So all of those things need to be documented, need to be done systematically, need to be planned properly, right? So and only then we communicate it. Yeah. So the research itself must have the sort of documentation and proper communication. Okay. All right. Thank you for your answers. Yeah, all of them are correct. Okay. Now let's have a look at what you guys have written here. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. Just read some of your answers. To influence the government decision related to regulation, yeah, correct. Science policy and funding, which can in turn have an important impact on scientific progress. Okay, very good, very good. So like now, I mean, when, you know, in the era of pandemic, the government really depends on the scientists, on the research done by scientists. So we will tell the government like what is actually important, what is like, for example, how when people investigated about vaccine. So all those terms and condition, precautions are actually come from the scientists, because the government, they rely on the scientists to do those things or those works, in order for the regulation, for the policy and so on. Okay, to deliver important findings, to fellow researchers and public. Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah, I've mentioned about that. So you have to tell people. You cannot just keep the secrets, the science as a secrets. Ensure the message and information to be present, published, and spread clearly. Okay, same point. To let the science information become more easy to be understood by the public. Yeah, so we want to do research because we want to tell people, we want to make it clear for people, like for example, about the hazards or about the benefits, yeah, about, like we know that microbes, they are good microbes, they are bad microbes. Okay, we have, I mean, we study about it. So we have, it's our responsibility to tell the public about what our research, what the findings are all about, the benefits or the hazards. Okay, to interpret the data or about an experiment. Okay, yes, interpretation. Yeah, so you need to communicate to make information on the research on and findings more. To make information more accessible. Yes, yeah, you want people to know what you are doing. To enhance the ability of scientists to secure their data and able to deliver to the society. Yes. Nothing in science has any value if, yes, correct. Yeah. It will be a waste if you don't communicate it. Able to present and analyze the data obtained to public by using the correct and specific scientific term. Yes. To help scientists to inform the public. Yeah, correct. To ensure proper procedure or practice while carrying out lab works. Okay, this is something to do with the regulation just now, right? To tell people what is correct, what is not. To raise public awareness. Yeah, correct. On how scientists spend their money and what happens to taxpayers' money in the world. Yeah, correct. So it shows that, you know, people know where their money are invested, are spent on. Yeah? And also in terms of the awareness, the science literacy. Okay, so now we know a lot more than years before about vaccine, about pandemic, about a virus. Yeah, because we are informed by the mass media about the hazard, about the precautions, all these things. It's about awareness. So if there's no awareness, then we cannot practice good hygiene or good practice and so on. To help advance understanding of what scientists do and how make discoveries. So it's about like to let people know about what scientists are doing, what the works are all about, to build a community that helps non-scientists understand the nuances and complexities of science and its importance, the awareness. Okay. All right, thank you for your participation in this activity. Okay, I hope that now you get better ideas about why we need to communicate science, and why we have to study this course, basically. Okay. Now let's go back to our lecture, our first lecture. So our first lecture will be on communication. Okay. So before we talk about scientific communication, we have to know what is communication first, right? This is not really a difficult concept. You know communication already right now, but at the end, I would like to relate with scientific communication. When we talk about communication, just communication is general communication in many forms, in non-science matters, in science matters. Okay, let's have a look at what is communication. Communication, what is defined by communication? Okay, so before that, these are all the subtopics that we're going to cover in the first lecture or first module. We're going to see what is communication, what is meant by communication, what are the components of communication, examples, what is meant by information processing, effective communication, types of communication, and at the end, we're going to relate with science. What is scientific communication and what are types of scientific communication? Okay, those are the subtopics in this module. So now let's have a look at what is communication. Okay, communication in general is a generic concept. It's a process of transmitting information and meaning from one person to another. So there are many definitions, okay, but you can see that most of them have the same points. It's about conveying, or it is about transmitting information. There must be information, okay, and also there must be a person who sent it and a person who received it. Okay, so I'm not going to read all here, but you can see that there are three important components: the sender, the information, and the receiver. Okay, right. The components of communication. Okay, as I told you, so there must be the origin of the. Okay, I'm not going to read one by one. Okay, I'm just going to emphasize the main points. The origin or source of information. Okay, so in the case of scientific information, what is the information is all about? The scientific findings, the scientific discovery, okay, the scientific results. So of course, in order to get that scientific result, you must do the scientific research, right? You must do investigation, right, in order to reach that scientific information about, for example, like people do research about vaccine. They have studied about it like many, many years. It's not just an overnight effort, so they have invested certain amount of time to study about it, and at the end they come up with the information. The information means that they have verified it. They have tested it many times, and they know that how for example, the virus behaves. Okay, so that's why they come up with those kind of information, like how to prevent it and so on. Okay, so the information, there must be an information, right? And so this is actually the important components, or what makes a communication. Information to be sent in the form of symbols or whatever, like how we're going to present the information. Yeah, it can be symbols, it can be audio, it can be in the form of written report. So it's like the form of the information, how it is going to be communicated. And then another important aspects of communication is the medium or transmission method. So how we're going to communicate. Yeah. So for example, if you have if you write it, so it is in the form of report. Okay. So how are you going to present the report? Like if let's say it's going to be oral, so what's the method? What's the platform? Yeah? Is it going to be media? Is it going to be, for example, live conference or newspaper or social media? Okay, so the platform is the place where you convey the things, and then the target or receiver of the information. Or before that, I forgot. This is the origin or source of information also relates to the person who sent the things, the person who owns the information, and they want to communicate the things. And at the end, there must be a receiver. There must be a target audience who will receive the information. Okay, so that's what communication should have. Okay, the important components. Okay, this is just a repetition of the points, the sender, the receiver. Okay, so without sender, there is no communication. Of course, there is no origin of the information, although they are receivers. And likewise, without receiver, although you have the information, but you don't have people to receive the information, there will be no communication as well. Okay, so both of the sender and receivers are important apart from the information. Okay, what are examples of communication? So it can take in many forms, right? It can be like now I'm communicating this module to you is a communication. Yeah, it's a talk, it's a lecture, seminar. Even if you pray, right? You are praying to God. Yeah? The God is the receiver and you are the sender. You are reciting your prayers. Writing, even you write. If you write something on the social media, it's a communication because you are the sender and everything about the information is from you and you put it on the social media, for example, that's the platform. And your audience is your followers or whoever reads the things, right? That is the receiver. So it's also a kind of communication. Yeah? So it can take in many forms. So the information processing, okay, so this is just like people put it into the theory, okay, the information processing, when the information is from the sender, the process is called encoding information, right? So how we're gonna present the things, how we're gonna prepare the information, and how we're gonna select the platform. So those are the process at the sender, So and the processing of the information is encoding, something like that. Okay. So at the receiver, when the receiver receives the information and they try to digest the things, they try to understand. So that is decoding. Okay, decoding. Yeah? So when they receive, like for example, if you guys listen to my lecture today, you are trying to digest what I'm saying, and you are trying to, you know, like to give some feedbacks or response, whether or not you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so that is the process at the receiver. Okay, right. So I hope that is clear. Encoding process, decoding. Okay. And in between that, there is a channel selection or medium. Okay, now I'm using Webex, right, as the live, I mean the platform, which is the video video platform. Okay, so that is the medium, right? So when we choose the medium, we have to know like whether the medium is suitable or not. Okay, for example, if let's say you are you have done, after this you have done the FYP research, for example. So you have okay, of course the department has outlined the channels whereby you have to present it in the written form. Okay, that's the platform, the written or the thesis. And then also you have to present orally. Okay, that is another platform. Okay, but if let's say you are just like a scientist, you know, you are working on your own data, so you have to make sure that how you're going to choose the platform that you want to use in order to convey your scientific discoveries. Okay, normally like us now, like lecturers, we are independent scientists. We work on our own and we choose our own platforms, how we're going to communicate our research discoveries. So normally we choose like, for example, maybe newspaper, or we can choose journal. Journal is a place where that publishes articles. Okay, we write the research discoveries in the form of articles so that the articles can be read by fellow scientists. Okay, so that is the platform, okay, the journal articles. So the choice of the platform, it depends on the suitability of the information. If you want to inform the public, of course, you need to go for something like more generic. A journal article is more to the people who are in that field, mostly. Okay, but if let's say if you want to reach the public, we have to choose something that can be read by the public, like for example, newspaper, social media, yeah, the mass media. Okay, so the effectiveness of the channels, it depends on the information, the types, and also the objective. You want to communicate your information to who? Yeah? So it depends on that. The platforms depends on that. Okay, decoding is, I've mentioned about it just now, is the process at the receiver side. Okay. And last one, feedback, okay, at the receiver side. So once you receive the things, of course, you have responses. The receiver will give some feedbacks, or there will be a result of that. Okay. For example, let's say we get to know the information about vaccine. Okay, what is our feedback? What is our response? So once we know that, okay, what we know, the information say that it can, the virus can be transmitted via droplets. So we have to wear masks. So that is our response, right? We have to wear masks. We have to practice social distancing. We have to wash our hands regularly. So that is our response towards that information. Okay. So the feedback is like the response. Like, for example, now when you listen to my lecture, so you understand my lecture. If you don't understand, perhaps your response might be different. If you understand, your response might be different. Okay. So the feedback is important. The feedback is the result of the communication. Right. So the effective communication, it will determine the feedbacks. Okay. Right. Effective communication. What it takes to be an effective communicator. So to be a scientist, it's not just about doing the right science, but also at the same time, the second stage is to be a good communicator. Right? So although you are a good scientist, you do like groundbreaking, you achieve lots of good results, but the second part is you have to communicate it effectively. So that's why we train you in this course how to be a good science communicator. It's not just a communicator, but a science communicator. Okay. So the center and research sharing and meaning of message. Okay, effective communication requires first relevant information. Okay, of course, the things that you want to communicate, your science must be relevant, must be verified, must be correct. So you cannot communicate fake science. Yeah? You cannot communicate something that is not correct, something that is not verified. So that is the first prerequisite. You have to make sure that the information is relevant. So in your case now, here is science. Yeah? And then it also requires suitable channel or medium. Okay, I've talked about it just now. You have to choose correctly based on your targets, based on the suitability of the information, right? And also good symbols. Okay, what is meant by good symbols? We're not talking about symbols, but we are talking about, like, let's say we are talking about language, like how you write, how you say it to people. Like now, if let's say I don't use correct English, will you understand? Will you get my ideas, or will you get my information? So it will affect. Okay? So by hook or by crook, you have also to master English. Okay, the language. Please, we're not talking about English specifically, but since English is the language that is used to communicate science, yeah. So you have to master the language, yeah. If you are, if let's say if you are communicating in Malay, you have to master the Malay language. So the basic idea is the language, because language is the transporter, yeah. Because we talk, I mean, we have to use a certain language to communicate. So of course we have to master the language, okay. And here I would like to emphasize, I would like to remind you guys, although you guys are in science, please also have that sort of what we call this effort to master English, to master English, because you're going to use English a lot, and this is the platform. This is you are now in your degree level. This is the time for you to master the language. There's no excuse actually to say that, you know, English is not your specialization. English is not my first language. Such thing shouldn't come into place. So you have to be ready. You have to embrace the language. Yeah? You have to learn. You have to, you know, change that perspective, change that mindset that English is not your first language. I don't really like to believe such things. So because you are a scientist, you need to communicate. You have to use correct English. You have to use the correct language lah. In this case, it's English. So try to improve your English. Let's say in the past your English might not be good, but from now onwards, you have to set your mind that you have to master the language. You have to use correct grammar. Try to learn and relearn the grammar again. So it's still not late. I mean, you are in that position to learn the language, okay? Because without good English, okay, without good English, your science is useless as well. So just now you said that without communication, science is a waste, right? And it's not just without communication, without good communication. If let's say you don't express the things correctly, right, people will not get your ideas. People will not get your scientific results. So what happens is that the interpretation, remember the feedback, the response, the interpretation will be different. Like maybe if let's say the messages informed to us about virus is not really efficient. We might interpret it, or maybe the virus is not dangerous, for example, something like that. Or maybe we don't take precautions. So that result in different interpretation, different feedbacks on the receiver. So that's why good communication is important. And what makes good communication is the language proficiency. Okay, right. So please take that motivation to learn or to improve your English. Right. Delivery process. Okay, so effective communication when we deliver the things, right? When we, let's say we present orally, we should make sure that, you know, the communication is good in terms of this takes practice, like the presentation. If you want to present, you have to present it clearly, the intonation and so on, you know, how you explain to the audience, make it clear. Don't present something too complex. You have to make it easier for the audience to understand from time to time, not in bulk at the same time, right? And then what makes effective communication? We have to understand the characteristics of the receiver. We have to know their interests. We have to know their background. We have to know their purpose of attendance. Okay? For example, if let's say you are communicating science to non-scientists, people who don't understand science, or people who are from different backgrounds, right? Let's say your friends from other fields. You cannot use all the jargons, all the scientific terms entirely, you know, in your communication. You have to make it easier for them to understand. Try to convert those terms into words that can be understood by the general public. Okay, so we have to understand the background of education of our receivers, of our audience. Okay, so that will make an effective communication. For example, like I like the way how doctors, nowadays we see so many doctors give talks on the mass media, like they try to explain to the general public about the diseases, the pandemic, the vaccines, the virus. They try to use like words that can be understood by us. If not, if let's say they use like terms, the medical terms, all the scientific terms, even I'm from science, but I don't understand all the medical terms, right? So it's a niche area. So if they just like keep using all these medical terms without considering the background of the audience, we will not get the information, right? But they try to use those easy words or easy terms that can be understood. So the information, the message can be communicated effectively. So that is the main objective, right? So you have to understand the characteristics of the receiver. So if let's say you are presenting your FYP proposals to lecturers, to your friends, okay, that's fine because we are in the same field. Okay, I understand what is meant by microbes, what is meant by, for example, if you're talking about culture, microbial culture, I know what is that, but you cannot talk about culture, let's say culture, microbial culture, you cannot easily say it to those people who are not in the same field because they don't understand culture as microbial culture. They would understand culture as other things, yeah? Right. Contributors to effective communication. Okay, this is the same thing. This is about the presentation, the words used, the voice, the body language, all those kind of things contribute to the effective communication. Okay. Types of communication. Okay, now in this course, we're talking about scientific communication and we are focusing on formal scientific communication, right? Whereby we will train you guys how to write proposal later on and also articles, but it is in the form of written communication or formal communication, okay? And then for oral communication, also you will present it in the specified platform, which is for the proposal presentation. Okay, so written and oral. And also another one is the poster presentation, but it's a scientific poster presentation. So it's actually more focused on that, right? But you also have to know that that is the formal, but there are also informal platforms. What are the informal platforms? It can be like social media, the mass media, like newspaper, magazine, social media. So communication can also happen. You can see lots of articles about scientific discoveries on newspaper, magazines, on books. Okay. So there are various platforms, but I just want you to know that we don't train you to write scientific articles on newspaper or magazine or social media, but we specify the platforms for you to focus on. Okay, but it's not to say that they are just limited to all these reports, all these articles. Right? It can take many forms. Right, so these are all the channels of written communication. You guys can see the screen, right? I just want to make sure. Is it clear so far?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, thanks. Okay, I'm afraid that I'm talking alone, so that's why I need some feedbacks from you guys. Okay, thank you for the confirmation. Okay, so this is, yeah, it can be in written form. It can be no visual. Okay, for example, radio. We don't have cassettes anymore these days. Compact disc, this is not your era. This is podcast era. What else? Clubhouse. You know Clubhouse? No visual. Something on audio only. Okay. A radio, yes, it's still relevant. With visual, TV, vlog, maybe. Yeah. Lecture like this. You can see me. Yeah. So those are the forms of oral communication. Okay, I think it's not that really difficult for you guys to get it. Yeah. Okay, what is scientific communication? I've talked about scientific communication briefly just now. Okay, so this is what I meant just now. So when you are talking to scientists, when your audience is scientists, you can talk about microbes. You can throw any jargons that you like related to your field. But if you are talking to the public, okay, you have to set differently. I mean, you have to set your mind differently. They don't understand. For example, what is the difficult terms in biotech? Genetic engineering, something like recombinant DNA technology. I mean, the public might not easily know about it. You have to explain it. What is meant by genetic engineering? What is meant by transformation, bacterial transformation, something like that. Okay, so you have to differentiate your audience, whether they are scientists, whether they are experts in your field, or whether they are non-experts. So that is actually illustrated by this figure. Okay, when we talk to the scientists, you can see that the illustration is different here. But if you talk to the public, you might change it a little bit to a way that could be understood by the public. Okay. Okay, this is just a comic to say about science and communication. Okay, so what is scientific communication? Okay, now we are more specific to scientific, not just communication. Right, it's about disseminating scientific information. Yeah? Scientific information. What is scientific information? It's about, for example, the results of your research. Yeah? Basically, because science and research can't be separated. It must go through the research. Yeah? It's about research discoveries. Yeah. So how are we going to disseminate the scientific information? Right? We can go for those platforms that are specific to people in the fields, like conference. You know what conferences is? Conferences are symposiums, seminars, colloquium or colloquia. So these are events normally attended by scientists or researchers. Okay, so this is more to like if you go to conferences, those who attend the conferences are scientists. Basically, like those are in that particular field. Yeah, because the conference normally it is held based on the theme. Yeah? For example, biotechnology conference. So people who attend the conference are those who are in biotech field. Okay, so it's more specific. It's a formal event where researchers present results, workshops, and other activities. So what conferences, symposiums, seminars are? They are actually events where scientists or researchers, not just scientists, researchers present their results, presents their discoveries. Like me, I do research at the lab. So if I want to share my results, I want to tell people, tell fellow researchers. Now I'm just focusing on fellow researchers because these events are specific to them. So I will present my results in the conferences, in all these symposiums. Yeah? Right, that is in terms of normally conferences, we present it in the form of oral presentation or poster presentation. There are two ways. So oral is you give like oral presentation. Poster is we prepare a poster and then we display the poster and we present the poster to whoever passed the poster. Okay, right. Apart from oral presentation like that, researchers also communicate their findings through academic or scholarly journals. Okay, now we have to take note the terms. So please please jot down the terms that we learn because now you are in science, you should know what is meant by conference, what is meant by journal. Okay, so academic or scholarly journal is a journal is like, it's not a, is it a publisher? It's like a body, yeah, a body that compiles articles. Yeah? For example, if let's say I want to write articles, you know what is meant by article? Journal article, research paper, research article, journal paper is actually refers to articles, but sometimes people refer it to paper term it as articles, but it's actually articles are articles. Yeah? Articles are those that are written by researchers, right? And they are to be submitted to like it's a publisher lah. For you to understand now, it's like a publisher yang present. I mean, like yeah, the one that compile the articles. Okay, so for example, if let's say I write articles, I send my article to the journal of, let's say, biochemical engineering, for example. Okay, so in order for my article to be accepted, it's not actually a straightforward process, you know, like the journal, the editor and so on, they have to evaluate the articles, whether or not the articles meet the requirement, because every journal, it has its own scope, it has its own standard. Yeah, so why they have this kind of things is because we don't want to publish fake science, science that are not good, like weak science. So we want, because all these journals, they want to make sure that when the public or when the people read the articles are verified, the articles are a good one. Okay, so that's why they have to set certain requirement and standards. Okay, so that is actually the process behind it. But for you to know now here is journals is a body that publishes articles, okay, so that the articles can be accessed by people in that field or people in other fields also. Okay, so that is another platform for communicating science, academic journal. And apart from journaling is books. Yeah, so we also publish our things or discuss, the findings or results in the books. Okay, so books, I think you are familiar with that. You can see like lots of textbooks. So it's written by the scientists, written by the researchers who are experts in those fields. And then thesis and dissertations. Okay, this is related to you later. So thesis is a term that is used to, is actually refers to the report of research done. Okay, there are many levels. Like now, you are, after this, you're going to enter the final year. So you're going to take FYP, final year project. And at the end of FYP2, there are two FYP. FYP1 is for the proposal preparation and some preliminary works. And FYP2 is where you start the research. And at the end of the FYP2, you have to prepare a report which covers all the results that you have done or you have achieved. So that report, normally we call thesis at the end. Thesis here, THESIS is singular, THESES is plural. Okay? So if you see here, thesis is plural. But yeah, so thesis is a report of a research. Okay, so you will come across this term. So make sure that you remember what it means. In some occasions, people refer it to dissertation, FYP dissertation, or instead of FYP thesis. But actually, it refers to the same thing, dissertation and thesis. But normally here we call it thesis. Dissertation maybe in some countries, like maybe US, call it, yeah. But some people might call it dissertation. But just for you to know that they refer the same thing, yeah. So sometimes people may say FYP dissertation. You should know that is actually FYP thesis. Don't get confused. Okay. So by definition, thesis is a document or dissertation are documents submitted in support of candidature for an academic degree or professional qualification, presenting the author's research and findings. So what is academic degree? Because FYP is part of your degree. So without FYP, you cannot graduate. So that's why it's one of the requirements. Okay, so that's thesis of dissertation. Okay, so this is an example of thesis. If you see this black book here, yeah, right. But normally it goes online these days. Okay, so apart from these platforms, conferences, journals, books, thesis or dissertation, we also have recently there is also an event called 3-minute thesis. What is this event all about? Is a popular event among postgraduate communities. You know what postgraduate is? Postgraduate, you are now undergraduate. undergraduate. Graduate means undergraduate. You are not yet graduated yet, right? So that's why it's called undergraduate. So after you graduate, you got your first degree. So if let's say you want to pursue for your second degree or third degree, like master degree, so we call it bachelor's degree. Your level now is like you are going for bachelor's degree and then master degree, right? And after master degree is doctoral degree or PhD, right? So before you graduate for your bachelor's degree, you are called undergraduate, okay? But after that, after you graduate, you have a bachelor degree and you want to pursue for your master's degree or doctoral degree, you are called postgraduate. Yeah? Postgraduate or postgraduate student. So this is what you call PG. So later, if you enter the lab, you'll see lots of PG at the lab. They are doing master degree and their PhD. Okay. So just to introduce you the term postgraduate. What is postgraduate? So among the postgraduate, among those who are taking master and doctoral degree, there is an event called 3-minute thesis. So 3-minute thesis is an event, it's a competition. It's a competition that challenges not just PhD candidates, but it's more popular among the PhD, but also master candidates and PhD candidates, how to present their research in just 3 minutes. So you can see that 3 minutes is very short. Even for your FYP presentation later, for your proposal, you are given 10 minutes to cover all. And your scope is not that really as much as those PhD and master candidates. Yeah. So when we talk about FYP, you are given, let's say, for the research in the lab, about 3 to 4 months for you to complete the lab works. Yeah, 3 to 4 months. Okay, that is FYP. I want to compare now the scope. So master degree by research. There are also master by coursework, but now I'm talking about master by research. Master by research takes 2 years. 2 years. Okay, just now FYP is about 3 to 4 months. 2 years master degree. PhD is about 4 years. 3 to 4 years. That's been 4 years. So you can see that in terms of the time, duration, yeah, it's longer, right? 3 to 4 months, you are given 10 minutes. It's more than enough, actually. But if you think about 2 years of research and 4 years of research, let's say we go for 4 years of research, and you have to present that 4 years of research in just 3 minutes. Do you think it's easy? Like what the things that you do in 4 years, there are a lot. Let's say you are doing the research in 4 years and you want to present in just 3 minutes. Or maybe if you can't imagine that gap, why don't you just imagine FYP? Everything that you do in 3 to 4 months, even in just 3 minutes, is very challenging, right? So that is where the skill of extracting, the skill of summarizing, the skill of presenting, or just like highlighting the main points is important. Okay, that is actually what is the challenge of this competition. They tried, is a platform for the candidates to sharpen their skills in presenting. Yeah? So to say that to present the works, 4 years of work in just 3 minutes is not easy. But if you have the skill to present, if you have you have the ability to communicate effectively, it can happen. Okay, so that is just to show you that such thing happen. And yeah, communication is key at the end. Yeah? Communication is key, and how you communicate it. Yeah? So this exercise develops presentation, research, and academic communication skills, and support the development of research students' capacity to explain their work effectively. And if not mistaken, 3-minute thesis, based on the presentations that I've watched, those candidates, they try to explain in a way that can be understood by general public, which is more difficult. You cannot use all the difficult terms. So you can imagine that, you know, like that sort of challenge, how to communicate your work, your massive work, in just short period of time and in a way that can be understood by general public. So all those kind of things needs skills, needs good practice. Yeah? So that is, you know, one form of communication, yeah? Among the postgraduates. Right. What is scientific communication? I think this is, yeah, I think I've mentioned about it. It's about, so when you, okay, so when you communicate the scientific information, you're not just like, you're not just delivering the information. Eh? You are trying to some sort of justify. For example, if let's say you want to present your FYP results later after your FYP2, of course you have to tell the lecturers, the examiners about your work, yeah, the background of your work, and you say what is the methods that you have practiced, and then there are few formats, right? And you have to present the results, and it's not just about presenting the results. You have to discuss the results in a way that you want to say that if you get the results so and so, you have to discuss, I mean, you have to justify why you get that results. Okay, so that is meant by this one, criticizing scientific arguments. But you have to not just about delivering, but you also have to give critics on your results. Give critics means you have to justify, you have to discuss. Yeah. Okay, so that is a good presentation. So you have to present and you have to discuss during the presentation. I mean, like you have to justify why you got the results. Okay, I think this one is just some general points by myself. Right, so apart from the formal platform, apart from all those oral presentations, conferences, the thesis, the books, yeah, science communication has also gone beyond the conventional platforms or the formal platforms. Of course, we don't, we are not going to train you to communicate science on social media, but just for you to know that science communication is it's not just limited to the formal platforms. Yeah? It can go beyond the formal platform. It can go beyond the conventional platforms. Yeah. So science communication is also on social media, right? So if you're not yet following biotechnologies at Unimas on Instagram, please give us a follow. Okay. So that platform is a place where you can get biotechnology updates, information, the basic things. Maybe you want to revise definition of certain terms. Yeah? So we feature such things, and also the activities, the updates, the research articles written, the lecturers at the program. Okay, please give us a follow, biotechnologies at Unimas on Instagram. Okay, so far we have 600 over followers. It has been already like a year and a half. Okay, so this is an example of science communication. Yeah, science communication. And also on Facebook, you can follow the Petri Dish. The Petri Dish is it's actually a newspaper, a scientific newspaper, but they already goes beyond the newspaper. They have gone beyond. Yeah, they are on social media as well. Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. But I just feature here the Facebook. Apart from that, what are social media? TikTok. Hey, you are a TikTok generation. I'm not a TikToker, okay, but I know about it. Science is on TikTok as well. Yeah. So for example, Cikgu Helmi is a science teacher. So he created lots of TikTok videos. So he demonstrated certain experiments or certain scientific information on TikTok. That's the way how he communicates the science. Okay, so you can see that the science communication also happened on TikTok, right? On those social media, Twitter. You just name it lah. Social media, everything is on it. This one is Twitter. Okay, for example, one of the pages is Germ Science Malaysia. Yeah? So a lot of scientific discoveries are featured on Twitter as well. Yeah, there are so many actually. I mean, so many pages, so many accounts on science. You just type science, you can, or biotech, you can get a lot of a number of the accounts. Telegram. Yeah? There are so many Telegram channels, and now I'm creating the Telegram channel. Later, I will post certain updates on science, for example. So it's a communication. I mean, like, it's a science communication, informal science communication, and also Clubhouse. Those who are on iOS. Clubhouse is an app. It's an application that allows. It is like a radio. It doesn't have the visual things, but it has the audio. So, but people discuss it. There are many rooms, right? People discuss about certain topics, and among the topics discussed are science. Yeah? So you can see that it goes beyond the conventional platforms. It's not just on the book, on the articles, newspaper. What else? Yeah. So it has gone beyond the conventional platforms. So try to, if you want to follow certain scientists as well, there are so many scientists on Instagram, whereby they update about whatever the scientific discoveries, which I really love to follow actually. So don't just follow celebrities for something that is not really meaningful. Try to find something more meaningful than that. Okay? Or maybe boleh lah, you can follow celebrities. I don't restrict that, but try to see from different perspective, because you are a scientist. Try to see science on social media as well. Okay? All right. So what are the types of scientific communication? Okay, now we go back to the formal platform. Okay? Right. So if you see this figure, let's say my mouse. If you see this figure, okay. So this is just to show you how in scientific research the communication comes into place. Okay. For example, now we start here. So if we start here, the research initiated. So in order for, you cannot communicate science without any research. So that's why we have to start a research. Okay? We have to initiate, and we have to initiate a research. So what is meant by we initiate a research. For example, if let's say later if you start FYP, you start the research from 0 point. Okay, so you initiate the research. So what are the forms of communications that will come into place? So when you start the research, you have to do readings. You have to read articles related to the proposed topic. Okay, you have to read articles, and you have to read many articles. It's not just one article, many articles. For FYP, on average, you have to read about 30 to 50 articles. Okay, so when you read the articles, you come up with proposal, research proposal. We call it research proposal because it's not yet being done. So you are proposing a research. So that is called research proposal. So the form of communication that will come here is research proposal in the form of written form. Yeah, whereby you write the research proposal. FYP1 is about research proposal, and also you present the research proposal in an oral presentation. Okay, so that is where we will start. You will write the research proposal and you will present the proposal. And what you will address in your research proposal, you will address what's the area of things that you want to investigate. What is the problem? So you are not going to repeat whatever the people have done in the past, but you have to create something new. I mean, yeah, of course you can refer to all of those references, right, as a supplementary foundation, but you have to know what you are trying to solve. Okay, for example, if let's say in biotech, let's say you read about bacteria. Bacteria. Okay, let's say wastewater. You know about there are so many bacteria in wastewater. in wastewater. But people have reported about bacteria that can degrade, for example, certain hazardous components. I mean, in the wastewater, there are many components, for example, okay, that bacteria that can degrade methane, bacteria that can degrade whatever the toxic metals, for example. But for example, if let's say you read a lot about it, but there are you discover that there is less report on, for example, bacteria that can degrade mercury, for example. Okay, there are other components. Sorry, there are bacteria that can degrade. I mean, you read about articles on bacteria that can degrade other components, but on mercury is still lacking. So that is the problem. That is the gap. That is the things that you want to target. Okay, that is meant here by problem area recognized. So you want to, okay, now since that there are limited information about bacteria that can degrade mercury, so that is where you want to focus on. Okay, so in your research proposal, you have to emphasize what is the problem area, or what is the issue that you want to solve. Okay, so that must be included in your research proposal. That is actually the research gap. Yeah. Okay, so that is what happened here. So so once you complete the research, okay, it takes, okay, in the middle of the research, you should report progress. Yeah, okay, preliminary and progress reports. Okay, even though and even in your FYP later, in your FYP 1, you are expected to do to prepare a research proposal, and you are expected to start some words, some preliminary words. Okay, you have to start entering the lab and do some basic works. And at the end of semester 1, you have to report your progress. Yeah? You have to prepare a progress report. So that is in the middle of the research. Okay, so that is a communication that exists during the research. Okay, progress report. So once you complete the research, okay, once you complete it, okay, I forgot to mention about research run obtained here. Okay, this one is not for you lah, actually. This is for scientists, independent scientists like us, the lecturers. And whenever we want to do research, we need grant. Grant means money, funding. Okay, so without funding, we cannot do the research because research is expensive. We cannot rely on the fund from the university because university has limited fund. So there must be certain specific funding that will sponsor the research. So like us, okay, when we want to start the research, we have to write the research proposal in order to get the grant, in order to get the funding. Okay, that is for us, not for you. But it's important for you to know that it's part of the process here. Okay, for you, you present the research proposal in order to get the validation from your examiners, whether or not your research is good, whether or not there are improvements that need to be done. Okay, so this is research, right? Okay, so for your case, during the FYP, you have to prepare the progress report. So once your research is completed, okay, after FYP 2, what you have to do is you have to write, you have to write thesis. You have to write final report or thesis dissertation. Okay, that is for your case. Okay, for our case, independent scientists, what we also have to do is we have to write articles. We have to present our findings during the seminar conferences. So that's what happened after the research is completed, or even during the research also, we can also present certain parts that are completed. And we also have to, this is after the research completed. We write the articles, okay? We write the articles, and as I mentioned just now, when we submit the articles to the journal, it's not going to be a straightforward process. It needs to be verified. So the articles, before it is published, it is called manuscript. whatever the writing that we submit to the journal, we call it manuscript. Manuscript. So that's the term here, manuscript submitted for review. So who will review it? The journal will assign like experts in those fields, to review the articles, to review the manuscript. Okay, so that's why you see the word manuscript here, but this is actually for the article publication. Yeah, right. So once the journal accept the manuscript, okay, say that the manuscript is good, it has been reviewed by the experts. So it will be published in the articles. Sorry, it will be published in the journals, and it will be termed as articles. And only then it's called article. Okay. I hope it's clear. Where's the mouse?
Yes.
Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, thanks. You know where we are now, right?
Yes.
Okay, now if you see the journal publication over there, right? So once it has accepted the manuscript, so it published the articles. The manuscript is published in the form of articles. Okay, articles. So that's the articles. Okay, articles. And what happened to the articles? The articles will be read by fellow researchers. Sometimes, just now some of you says that the importance of scientific communication is to tell fellow researchers about your words, to avoid repetition. So when other researchers read your articles, okay, refer to your results, okay, this is what you have done, and they want to perhaps use some sort of information from your articles perhaps in their research proposal or research in their own research articles, they have to cite you. They have to cite you. You know what citation is? Citation in literature is where we cite other authors for their information. For example, if let's say later you write a research proposal, you have to read articles, right? So those are articles yang they're published in the journal. So whenever you want to use the information, their results, in your research proposal, you have to cite them. You have to cite them, and you have to say, for example, what's meant by citation is when you say that, for example, E. coli can, recombinant E. coli can degrade, for example, mercury. Okay, so that information is from the article that you read. So you have to cite it, like you have to put like in bracket Smith et al. 2010, for example. Okay, that is citation. Citation means that you give a credit to the author for their fact, for their information. Yeah, citation. Okay, so that is meant by citation. Right. So this is in general the types of scientific communication. Okay, what happened from the research initiated. Okay, what forms of communication exist, until you complete the research. Okay. All right. So that's all about module 1. Any question on module 1?